I'm gonna be honest, I had no idea how to start this video. You've read the title, Dio, big, bad man, top shagger, literally all of My Hero Academia. Who would win? So we're going to take Dio and just place him in the world of My Hero Academia and tell him to run everyone's pockets. And how would he do? Would he solo the verse? And if not, who could he beat? And that's what I intend on answering today. I'll be going over both parts 1 and 3 Dio individually, just so I can go through everything as well. Massive shout out to Joe Bergoda, who once again helped with the research of this video. His channel and his Dio video will be both in the description and in the end screen. And before this video starts, I held a competition on my Discord server where viewers get to create their own thumbnails, and the most popular thumbnail would win and be shown on this video along with a free month of Nitro. So congrats to Willie, his thumbnail is now on screen right now. So let's get on with how powerful is Dio compared to My Hero Academia. Much like every other video in this format that I have made, I'll go over all of Dio's stuff first so I can just straight compare him to the verse. Starting in part 1, even as just a head, he was capable of surviving an explosion of the boat that he was on, with calcs of this ranging between 64.75 tons of TNT to 613 tons of TNT, with both ranges going between city block to multi-city block level. Take into consideration the fact that Dio is literally just ahead here, and he should massively upscale from this. He should also scale to his part 3 counterpart, even describing parts of his body as weak within that part. This is pretty big because Dio is capable of taking bloodlusted punches from Star Platinum, a stand often stated to be their strongest stand. This means it scales higher than the likes of Jolene punching meteors with power equal to 61.2 kilotons of TNT, Enya the Hag being able to create fog spanning over a large city, Weather Report being able to create the world's most powerful hurricanes, Ghiaccio being able to freeze an entire sea, and the Sun Stand being capable of lighting up an entire desert and possibly a whole country. I know I just kind of sort of sped through all of that, so new viewers might be confused, so I'd suggest going into the description and seeing the calcs that I've used for this video, or check out a few of the more recent JoJo videos I've made. Don't look at any of the old ones, please, for your own sanity. Speed-wise, Dio should realistically still scale to his parts 3 self. Even without the use of the world, Dio is capable of easily deflecting the Emerald Splash from Hierophant Green. This is the same Hierophant Green, or Emerald Splash rather, that is capable of travelling faster than Whole Horse's Bullet, which speed blitz Silver Chariot. This is impressive because Silver Chariot could tag Hangman, who moves through beams of light, calculating out to 365 to 1,200 times faster than light. Even if you don't think that Part 1 Dio scales to Part 3 Dio for speed for some reason, he should still be massively, or at least faster than light. This is due to the abundance of statements of Hammond producing the exact same waves of light that the sun does. Skeptics might then ask, well, how do we know that Dio then scales to the speed that Hammond flows at? Well, Dio should scale higher than Bruford, who is capable of reacting to pure bursts of Hammond in the water. Dio is even able to react fast enough to stop water from reaching his vital parts of his body after it had already entered his hand, which some have calculated out to be 8.9 times faster than light. Durability wise, it should scale to his attack potency, just being able to take punches from Star Platinum, even before he had his most powerful state of being within Part 3, meaning that it should scale to his Part 1 self. Abilities wise, and he does have a lot. He has enhanced senses, flight, absorption, and pretty high intelligence levels. This is due to scaling to Ob Joseph, who is capable of outsmarting the Pillar Men, who have IQs of over 400. Dio also has 4 different types of immortality, being ageless immortality, resilient immortality, regeneration-based immortality, and the ability to take over someone else's body after death, at least when he's just ahead. He also has self-sustenance, being able to survive at the bottom of the ocean in a coffin for approximately 100 years, body control and minor elasticity, being able to extend his veins, necromancy, being able to resurrect the dead and even able to make like an army out of them, biological manipulation, being able to fuse the bodies of others. He's also pretty skilled in hand-to-hand combat, being able to beat Jonathan in a boxing match, and even stated by Speedwagon to be the most evil man he's ever seen. Keep in mind, this is the same Speedwagon who's lived on the streets his whole life and lived a life of crime. He also has mind manipulation, being able to mind control someone with just eye contact, along with water manipulation, being able to fire off pressurized liquids from his eyes. His most well-known ability within Part 1 is his heat and ice manipulation, being able to vaporize the moisture within his own body, being able to drain the heat from others on contact, freezing them and inhibiting the flow of Hammond within their body. It's also important to note Dio's levels of regeneration. At the very least, he should upscale from other vampires like Straizo, who could regenerate from having his entire body blown apart by grenades. However, arguably he can have even more broken regeneration than just this. This is due to the fact that Dio implanted his cells into the Nijimura father, who granted him the same regenerative powers that Dio had to some extent. Keep in mind that the Nijimura brothers' goal was trying to find or create a stand user with the power to kill their dad and go beyond his regeneration. This is big, as Okuyasu's stand the hand is capable of erasing space itself, which can mean that even when being erased from existence, Dio can still likely regenerate. I understand that this is quite speculative, and to be honest, I don't really blame you for being speculative, as we don't actually ever see the hand try and kill him. However, keep in mind that it is explicitly stated that every stand the stand arrow has created has failed to kill the Nijimura father, which implied that he did try it at some point. This would be low godly regeneration, which makes it even more dangerous and added on top of Dio's massive pain tolerance, as I'm sure it's not too pleasant moving around with just your head being cut off and still being able to fight when being split in half. As for weaknesses, to be fair to Dio, he doesn't really have much. He's overconfident and arrogant and will be disintegrated in the sunlight, and is therefore vulnerable to light-based attacks. So just compare this to My Hero Academia before adding part 3 onwards. In terms of pure strength, Dio is actually quite struggling in the verse. This is due to literally beginning of the series Todoroki being able to create a large ice structure instantly, with Calx placing it at 3.07 megatons of TNT or small city level, and realistically most if not everyone in the series by the end of it should scale to this, due to people not even being able to beat Todoroki, but also the likes of pro heroes being much higher than Todoroki just starting out. This means that in order to have Dio stronger than the lowest tiers of the verse, you need to have him at his highest ends, which to be fair isn't too outlandish, but it is still a bit wild that you can argue the lower tiers of My Hero Academia can be comparable to Dio. Regardless, the high to god tiers would be much more powerful than Dio. Firstly, there's the feat of Endeavour being able to vaporize the Hood Nomu with a large amount of fire equaling to 8.7 gigatons of TNT or island level. Star and Stripes, with the aid of some outside help, could create a large explosion with a punch equaling 3.13 teratons of TNT or small country level. There's also All Might being able to create a large storm with enough power to equal 735 gigatons of TNT or large island level. There's then also the feat of Deku and Bakugo splitting 9's islands, which spanned over an entire island, with Calx placing it between mountain to country to multi-continental levels of power. Of course, the highest end here is questionable, but it is there if you want to highball the verse. So you might ask, doesn't this just apply to a few select people? Well, surprisingly not, as Endeavour's fire was stated to be on par with Shoto's, who is also on par with Dabi, which means that they should both scale to the island level feat off the bat. There's then also the USJ Nomu, who can go blow for blow with All Might, and Hood Nomu, who is stated to be above that. There's then also Gigantomachia, who Endeavour could barely damage. There's also then drugged up Wolfram, who could overpower All Might. 9, who requires 2, 1 for all users in order to take down. And Shigaraki being stated to be as powerful and as durable as Prime All Might. Not just regular All Might, Prime All Might. The difference between Prime and current All Might is a difference of 60 times in strength. This is due to the statement of All Might being able to defeat the USJ Nomu in 300 punches, when it would have only taken 5 in his prime. With this, you can scale Shigaraki to country level at the very least, being 60 times greater than All Might's feat of punching a tornado into existence, which would require power equal to 45.3 teratons of TNT. It is unclear if the 60 times multiplier can be properly applied to the Deku Bakugo feat, as we don't really know how strong Deku is compared to All Might at this specific moment in time, but if we do apply it and use the mid-end scaling, you can still get the likes of Shigaraki and Deku to multi-continental. Speed-wise, in the verse is all pretty much relativistic to faster than light. This is due to one of the lowest tiers of the verse being Oyama, being capable of firing off beams of light from his stomach, which many characters are shown to avoid. Despite the fact that it's literally stated to be light on many, many occasions, some people still believe that the series just can't scale that high for some reason. Either way, the highest tiers of the verse would be at least the speed of light due to the likes of Star and Stripes being able to catch lasers. Hacks-wise, and My Hero's pretty stacked as well, having the likes of Mr. Compress who can seal people away, Shinzo who can control minds by talking to people, Deku being able to resist an ending which was literally fated to happen, Shigaraki and Overhaul being able to turn people to atoms and dust just by touching them, Star and Stripes has law manipulation, All for One and many other characters can straight up remove powers, and the Nomus plus Shigaraki are pretty wild regeneration, as even after having their entire body vaporized, they're capable of regenerating. Of course, this isn't all of the abilities that My Hero has, but it's more of the more mental ones. So how does it go down? Well, Dio definitely is going to have a bit of a struggle when it comes to fighting the big boys of the verse, at least the ones who can one-shot him in terms of physical strength. Even if Dio's regeneration is enough to save him from the physical blows, there are several people that can just get around that by either turning him to atoms, dust, or having him sealed away. That said, Dio does actually have a bit going for him. Firstly, the verse doesn't really have an answer for being frozen and then smashed apart, where the only ones that could possibly counter it being the likes of Deku and the Todorokis, who can manipulate their fire temperature at will, and the Nomus who could just regenerate from it. Star and Stripes' law manipulation could be quite devastating, but it has to fill out two requirements: knowing the target's name and managing to touch them. Granted, Dio does say his name a lot, so it's not too mental to say it's a possibility, but considering how much faster and smarter Dio is, he isn't just going to let her touch him like that. Pause. Dio's mind control also cannot be countered by a ton of the verse, with only the likes of Deku, and likely the other One For All users being able to counter it. Shigaraki and All For One do have some pretty wild abilities that can mess up Dio I haven't brought up, such as illusion creation, teleportation, and attack reflection, but the biggest advantage that Dio has is his speed. Due to skill 2's part 3 self, even lowballing, he is hundreds of times faster than My Hero Verse. Yeah, even the likes of Prime All Might, who could speed blitz Oyama to hell and back, he's still going to be much faster than, as it's an unquantifiable amount. Even if we multiply the speed by 60 times, which doesn't make sense because this was only applied to the power and durability, Dio would still be much faster. Of course, if you have Dio in character, he's very likely to fall for the likes of Shinzo's mind control, and you would basically just, besides that, just avoid everyone's attacks endlessly. As a vampire, he does have great stamina as well, meaning that he would be relying on his mind control, biological manipulation, and ice manipulation in order to take people down. If you had him completely bloodlusted and rule his arrogance weakness out, it would be, quite easy for Dio, at least. If you were to have a team fight, though, where Dio was on one team and all of My Heroes on the other, then it really isn't in Dio's favour. Granted, he could create an army of the undead to fight back, but they would also just get one-shot by pretty much all the verse. While Dio can avoid every attack that comes at him, it only takes one hit for him to get taken down. And considering there are many that can attack from a distance and can tank the space for Stingy Eyes, Dio is at least going to get overwhelmed and be able to, lose, unable to win from there. However, on one-on-one fights, he would actually fare quite well, being able to speed blitz everyone with only a few people being able to survive his win cons. Part 3 Dio does get many more abilities. Granted, it's unclear how many of his Part 1 abilities he still has due to his seeming refusal to use them, but he does at least remain having his core vampiric abilities and intellect. He has abilities such as extrasensory perception, being able to see ghosts, and also spirits, acrobatics, telepathy, and manipulative charisma, which also leads to a fear-inducing aura. He has also another way of mind controlling people with flesh buds, summoning of his stand, non-physical interaction, being able to interact with stands. Hermit Purple 2 has elasticity, clairvoyance, technology manipulation, mind reading. There's also selective intangibility and incorporeality, as stands are the incorporeal manifestations of one's vital energy and can only be harmed by other stands. Non-physical interaction, as stands can interact with ghosts and other stands, and invisibility, with stands only being able to be other stands and stand users. His main stand, however, is the world, which possesses its, intangibility, non-physical interaction, invisibility, and corporeality that Hermit Purple has. On top of that, the world also has afterimage creation, size manipulation, should also have enhanced senses, and he has the same enhanced senses as Star Platinum, which is so precise he can remove a flesh bud from someone's head with much more proficiency than a highly skilled surgeon can. And of course, the main ability that Dio has is his ability to stop time and move through it for roughly 5 seconds. That might not sound like much, but Dio can make really good use of this time, especially when it gets longer the more he uses it. He does also have access to a seemingly infinite amount of knives, which he could throw at people as another form of long-range attacks. God knows where he got those knives, and to be honest, I don't really want to think about it or where he's keeping them. But Dio in Part 3 also has an unquantifiably weaker regeneration power than his Part 1 self. However, healing a little slower until he reaches his high state isn't too much of a drawback. Any damage done to Dio will also reflect on the world and vice versa. The world also only has a 10-meter range, so everyone outside of that is safe from the world, at least physically, because time stop works on a universal level, being able to halt Pucci resetting the universe and would still be affected in that regard. So does anything change? Well, with Dio's charisma and fear inducement, he could very well get many of the My Hero characters on his sides, and his knives can be used as more, long-range attacks, even if they aren't that potent against the strongest heroes of the verse. The biggest thing here is that Dio is nigh impossible to hit at this point. Not only is he hundreds to thousands of times faster, but the world can get in way of the attacks, with the world being an invulnerable, just basically an invisible shield for the My Hero Academia people. They're basically not going to get hit. This isn't even to mention the massive elephant in the room of time stop, means that even if Dio is somehow caught off guard, he can just stop time and just move before any lasting damage is dealt. The world being intangible also throws another spanner into the works, as Dio could very well just have the world phase through someone's body and crush their vital organs. Granted, Dio's literally never done this to our knowledge, much less in a fight, but if he's bloodlusted, then you could very well argue he would do that. Besides, many of the, same stuff applies to Dio, being able to be caught by Shinzo's brainwashing ability and illusions, and Shigaraki's damage transferal, which is possibly the only way that my hero has a chance of damaging the world, but that's quite up in the air. But that said, if Dio is just on one-on-one fights with everyone in the verse, it's hard to see him lose due to the fact that he isn't really going to get hit and has an insta-win, which would at least help him win against the higher tiers of the verse. The only outliers of this are the Nomus and Shigaraki, who could just regenerate, in which case it'd probably just be a stalemate. And another army fight is basically the exact same as part 1, but with the ability to dodge attacks much more easily. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more like it, make sure to like and subscribe. Make sure to check out the man himself, Joe Bergoda, and I'll see you next time.